Okay folks, buckle up. Tonight on the Mysteria Archive, we're diving into a mystery that bends time itself. What if history's been rewritten and centuries never happened at all? This is the Great Reset, New Chronology and Phantom Time. Get ready for a wild ride through a past that might be a lie. Imagine waking up tomorrow to find that it isn't 2025, it's 1728. Your phone, your memories, everything you know, still here, but the date? Gone. 3 centuries of history erased. The Crusades? Fabricated. The Dark Ages? A placeholder. Charlemagne? A ghost emperor who may never have existed at all. It sounds like science fiction, but for over 30 years, historians, mathematicians and researchers have been quietly arguing that human history itself might have been edited. They call it the Phantom Time hypothesis, and it's just one strand of a much larger theory. A theory that says our timeline has been rewritten, reset and rearranged more than once. Not in secret laboratories or government bunkers, but by kings, popes and scholars who literally move time to shape power. And if that sounds absurd, consider this. Time isn't a natural law, it's a human invention. And like any invention, it can be modified. This isn't about modern politics or internet conspiracies. This is about something much older. A reset not of money or systems, but of memory itself. Because if even a few of these theories hold a kernel of truth, then the greatest lie in human history might not be who wrote the past, but when it happened. Okay, so let's just take a breath. Now, we're not saying your birthday just moved to 1728, or that your phone's about to start speaking medieval Latin. But the idea that parts of our history might have been inserted or shifted, that's wild. And here's the thing. Every civilization has rewritten its past at some point. Kings have changed calendars, popes have renamed years, and empires have literally deleted dynasties. So, when someone says, what if time itself was manipulated, it's not total nonsense. Now, is the phantom time theory accepted by historians? Nope. But it does make you wonder, how much of history do we know firsthand? And how much are we just trusting on paper? Let's rewind to the moment time first got adjusted. The birth of the timeline. Our entire world runs on a story, the story of time. Every appointment, every birth, every moment, all bound by a system we didn't invent, but inherited. The funny thing is, timekeeping was never perfect. It started as a series of guesses. In ancient Rome, Julius Caesar introduced the Julian calendar, a bold attempt to tame the seasons into a neat mathematical cycle. But the math was slightly off. By the 1500s, Easter, the most important date in Christendom, was drifting further from spring each year. The calendar was losing 10 full days. So, in 1582, Pope Gregory XIII did something radical. He reset time. He removed 10 days from the month of October. Thursday, October the 4th was immediately followed by Friday, October the 15th. 10 days gone, erased just like that. And the world didn't take it well. In England, mobs protested, demanding, give us back our 10 days. Other nations refused to switch for centuries. Russia didn't adopt the Gregorian calendar until after the Bolshevik Revolution, meaning that even the October Revolution actually happened in November. It's a reminder that our timeline isn't fixed, it's decided. And those decisions weren't always scientific, they were political, religious, and deeply human. In trying to synchronize the heavens, we might have opened the door to something far stranger. The idea that time itself can be rewritten. Because once you know the calendar has been reset before, you start wondering, what if it's happened more than once? So yeah, one day in 1582, 10 days just vanished. Imagine explaining that to your boss. Sorry, couldn't come to work. The Pope deleted the week. But that really happened. And that's where the seed of all this starts. The moment humans realized they could edit time. Of course, Gregory's motives were practical. Easter was wandering off the map. But the idea that someone can just change the year, that sticks. It's a short leap from we lost 10 days to what if we lost centuries? And that's exactly where the next part of this story begins, with one historian who looked at those missing pages and said, what if they never existed at all? The phantom time hypothesis. So let's jump ahead to the early 1990s. A German historian named Dr. Herbert Illig looks at the calendar and doesn't like what he sees. According to Illig, something doesn't add up. Our entire dating system, the foundation of modern history, has extra years in it, roughly 3 centuries to be exact. Illig called it the phantom time hypothesis. His claim? That the years 614 to 911 AD, nearly 300 years, never actually happened. According to his research, this period was fabricated by Holy Roman Emperor Otto III, Pope Sylvester II, and Byzantine Emperor Constantine VII. Why? To make Otto's reign line up with the millennial year, the symbolic year 1000 AD, and to legitimize their rule by placing themselves at the dawn of a new age. It sounds outlandish, but Illig believed he had evidence. He pointed to gaps in the archaeological record from the early Middle Ages. Missing construction, missing tools, missing art. He noted that architecture and artifacts from before and after this supposed period looked strangely familiar, like time hadn't really passed at all. And perhaps most intriguing, astronomical records. Eclipses and planetary alignments recorded in those centuries didn't perfectly match what modern simulations predict. According to Illig, this wasn't just a clerical error, it was a cover-up, a medieval software update for the timeline. And if that were true, everything from the fall of Rome to the rise of Charlemagne might have been fiction, a 1,000-year empire built on air. Most historians dismissed it as pseudo-history, but the idea caught fire. Because if 3 centuries could vanish so easily, what else could have been rewritten? So yeah, according to Illig, we've all been living in ghost time. The Middle Ages? Basically the world's longest filler episode. Now, obviously, historians weren't thrilled about someone deleting 300 years of their field. They pointed out inconsistencies, missing motives, and the fact that you can't just erase that much human activity without someone noticing. Still, Illig's theory hit a nerve, because it wasn't just about the math, it was about trust. If the calendar can be forged, how solid is the rest of history? And it didn't stop there, because a few decades later, another man would take Illig's idea and turn it into a theory that tried to rewrite all of civilization. And he didn't just question centuries, he questioned millennia. Anatoly Fomenko and the new chronology. Enter Anatoly Fomenko, a Russian mathematician, brilliant, meticulous, and a bit obsessed with patterns. In the 1970s, while analysing astronomical data, Fomenko noticed something strange. Historical records from different eras seemed to describe the same celestial events. To him, that wasn't coincidence, it was duplication. The past, he argued, had been copied, pasted, and relabeled as something older than it really was. This became the foundation of his life's work, the new chronology. Fomenko claimed that much of what we call ancient history, from ancient Egypt to Greece to Rome, is really just a retelling of events from the Middle Ages, rebranded and pushed back in time. According to him, civilization didn't begin thousands of years ago. It began around AD 1000. Everything before that, a historical echo. He used mathematical analysis to study dynasties, wars and reigns, finding statistical fingerprints that, he said, proved repetition. Even the Bible, Fomenko claimed, was written far later than believed. Its stories distorted memories of real medieval events. Mainstream scholars, of course, strongly disagreed. Archaeology, linguistics, and radiocarbon dating all contradict his conclusions. But the audacity of it captured imaginations worldwide. Because Fomenko wasn't saying a few centuries were invented, he was saying almost all of history had been remixed. That humanity's entire backstory was a kind of mirror maze, built by scribes and scholars over generations. Whether you see it as genius pattern finding or wild speculation, it's undeniably bold. A theory that forces us to look at our past like a code, one that might have been rewritten line by line. Fomenko basically looked at the timeline and said, yeah, I think they've copied their homework. But to be fair, he wasn't some internet crank. He was a serious mathematician. He just applied math to history, which is like using a calculator to fact-check Shakespeare. And the thing is, his methods were real, but his conclusions? Controversial to say the least. Still, it's fascinating. The idea that ancient history might be recycled storytelling isn't that far-fetched. Myths do echo, empires do repeat. But Fomenko turned that pattern into a worldview, that humanity keeps rebooting the same narrative. And whether you agree or not, that question lingers. How much of what we call ancient is really just déjà vu? Echoes in archaeology and astronomy. If the phantom time hypothesis or new chronology were true, then there should be physical evidence, or the lack of it, to prove it. So, what does the real world say? Let's start with archaeology, humanity's time machine made of dust and bones. Mainstream historians point out that the supposed missing centuries from 614 to 911 AD aren't actually empty at all. We have structures, documents, and artifacts from across continents that fit right into those dates. In the Middle East, there's the rise of early Islam. In China, the Tang dynasty. In the Americas, the flourishing of Mayan civilization. And these timelines line up without gaps. Now, if phantom time were real, all of those civilizations would have to be part of the same grand mistake, or an even grander cover-up. Then there's astronomy, our most reliable historian. We've got ancient and medieval records of eclipses, comets, and planetary alignments, cosmic events that can be calculated backward with pinpoint accuracy. Every verified record matches its expected date on the standard Gregorian timeline. Even Halley's Comet, which appears roughly every 76 years, has been documented consistently from 240 BC onward. There are no mysterious 3-century holes where the sky went blank. So, if the stars say the timeline is solid, why do these theories still resonate? Because, even if the numbers don't lie, history itself often does. We've seen civilizations erase dynasties, rewrite victories, and silence failures. So while time may not have been forged, our stories about it definitely have. And that's where the mystery deepens, because even if the past wasn't deleted, maybe it was edited. Alright, so here's the deal. Archaeologists and astronomers have basically looked at the phantom time idea and gone, yeah, nice try. The evidence doesn't really back it up. The stars line up, the pottery shards are where they should be, and sadly, no one misplaced 3 centuries of Roman tax records. But that doesn't make the theory useless. It tells us something deeper, that we want history to be flexible, maybe because we already know it is. Every empire edits its own story. Every ruler rewrites the truth just a little. So, maybe the phantom time theory doesn't expose a fake timeline. Maybe it exposes how fragile our trust in history really is. And that leads us to the question, why do we want time to be wrong? The psychology of time edits. Why do theories like phantom time and the new chronology refuse to die, even when the evidence doesn't back them up? Because deep down, they touch something emotional. They play on the uneasy idea that our entire reality, our past, our origins, might not be what we've been told. Throughout history, power has always rewritten the timeline. Empires rise by erasing what came before them. Books get burned. Kings become legends. Whole centuries can fade because someone decided they didn't fit the narrative. So, the idea that time itself might have been edited feels less like madness and more like the ultimate expression of what humans have always done, rewrite. There's also the psychology of control. Whoever controls the timeline controls the story of the world. If a leader can decide what year it is or which dynasty came first, they can decide who has authority now. Illig and Fomenko's theories might not be historically proven, but they dramatize something real. The fear that truth is always written by the winners. And maybe that's why people find comfort in the idea of a hidden reset. Because if history is flexible, then maybe fate is too. Maybe the past isn't something that happened to us, but something that can be changed or reclaimed. It's a strange mix of skepticism and hope. And it's that mix that keeps these theories alive. Even if the phantom time never existed, the feeling that we've lost something, that part of our story has been edited out, that's universal. Because sometimes the mystery isn't about missing centuries, it's about missing meaning. It's kind of fascinating, right? Even if phantom time isn't real, it feels like it could be, and that's the hook. We all secretly suspect that parts of history were rewritten. I mean, every empire's done it. It's like humanity's favourite bad habit. But there's also this quiet hope underneath, that if the past can be changed, maybe the future can too. It's control, but also comfort. And maybe that's why these theories keep coming back. They're not really about dates or calendars, they're about identity. We want to know who we are, but to do that, we have to trust who we've been. And honestly, history doesn't always make that easy. The Great Reset Parallel. History, it seems, loves its resets. But here's where the story takes a modern twist. When people today hear the Great Reset, they think of economics, the World Economic Forum, and a plan to rebuild systems after crisis. Officially, it's a proposal for sustainable policy and global cooperation. But to many, the phrase carries a chill, as if another invisible hand were about to reach out and rearrange the future, the same way Illig and Fomenko said the past was. And that's the connection, not content but concept. Both the medieval reset and the modern one hinge on the same idea: control through redefinition. Change the framework and you change reality. In the past, that meant rewriting calendars and crowning emperors. Today, it might mean restructuring economies, algorithms, and the flow of information itself. When data is currency and attention the new gold standard, whoever edits the narrative holds the power once reserved for kings and popes. But there's another layer. Technology has become our new timeline. Every update, every new platform quietly rewrites how we remember things. Old links vanish, archives rot, digital footprints fade. In 1,000 years, historians might stare at corrupted hard drives and ask, did the early 21st century really happen? So, when people talk about a great reset, maybe it's not about a meeting in Switzerland. Maybe it's something deeper. Humanity doing what it's always done, rebuilding the story of itself for a new era. Because if the past could be edited by ink and parchment, imagine what can be done with code. Okay, before anyone starts polishing their tinfoil top hat, the modern Great Reset isn't a secret world takeover. It's more like a big business and policy brainstorming session. But here's the fun part. It feels like history repeating. Every few centuries, humanity hits refresh. The tools change from quills to keyboards, but the instinct's the same. Reorganize, relabel, move on. And honestly, that's kind of what we do with our own lives, right? New year, new you. Except this time it's new millennium, new world. So, while the phrase might sound ominous, it's really a mirror, reflecting that endless human urge to start over, to edit the timeline, and maybe to pretend we're the ones writing history. Time as a construct. By now, the boundaries between fact theory and philosophy have started to blur. And that's fitting, because time itself doesn't behave as neatly as we pretend it does. Einstein showed us that time stretches and bends with gravity. In quantum physics, events can appear to happen simultaneously across vast distances. To some scientists, the past and the future might coexist, like 2 pages of the same book being read at once. That means the line we call history might not be a line at all, more like a spiral or a feedback loop. And maybe that's why we keep finding patterns and repetitions. Maybe we're not imagining phantom time, we're feeling the echo of a cyclical universe. But step outside the lab for a second. Time is also cultural. Ancient Mayan calendars saw it as repeating ages. Eastern philosophies treat it as eternal return. Even our own memories distort it, stretching happy moments, shrinking heartbreaks. We live in personal timelines, emotional chronologies. So perhaps phantom time isn't in the calendar, it's in us. Think about it. The stories we tell about ourselves always get revised. We cut out the boring parts, retell the triumphs, and edit the mistakes. Civilizations do the same thing on a global scale. So maybe time isn't lying to us. Maybe we're just relentless editors of reality, turning chaos into narrative. And in that process, a few missing centuries are almost inevitable. Alright, this is where things go full existential coffee shop. But honestly, it's kind of freeing to think of time as flexible. It explains why 5 minutes on the treadmill feels like an hour, and vacations disappear in a blink. Physicists say time can warp. Philosophers say it's an illusion. And the rest of us just try to get to work on time. Maybe that's the point. Time isn't something we find, it's something we make. And whether we're talking calendars, empires, or memories, we're always doing the same thing. Editing the universe into a story that makes sense. Which, come to think of it, might be the most human reset of all. Rewriting the past, reprogramming the future. So maybe the real question isn't whether the phantom time hypothesis or the new chronology is true. Maybe it's what those theories say about us. Because whether or not 3 centuries were invented, or the Roman Empire was just a medieval remix, these ideas expose something deeper, our unease with the permanence of truth. We like to think of history as solid, carved in stone, but it's more like wet clay, reshaped by whoever's holding it. From papal decrees to data servers, every age has found new ways to press edit on reality. And now, as we live inside the greatest information experiment in history, the cycle continues. Every tweet deleted, every record adjusted, every memory uploaded to the cloud, small edits in the same old story. We may not be erasing 297 years, but we are curating the present in real time. One post, one algorithm, one update at a time. Maybe that's what makes the Great Reset so compelling. not as a conspiracy, but as a mirror. We've always been resetting ourselves, our calendars, our systems, our myths. So perhaps the real illusion isn't that history was rewritten, it's that it ever stayed still. And in the end, maybe time isn't something we travel through at all. Maybe it's something we write, one story at a time. You know, the part I love most about these theories, they're less about history and more about humanity. Every civilization, every generation tries to rewrite the script. Not because we're liars, but because we're storytellers. We need meaning, and if the past doesn't give it to us, we'll build one that does. So, whether you think the timeline's been tampered with or not, one thing's certain: history's never finished. It's a living document, part memory, part imagination. And maybe that's the real mystery. Not that time is fake, but that it keeps waiting for us to fill in the blanks. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this one. And if so, why not check this one out on screen now? And don't forget to like, share and subscribe. It really helps the channel out, and I'd really appreciate it. And let me know in the comments below of videos you would like to see next time. Okay, my friends, be safe, and until next time, stay curious.